Greetings, one. Greetings, all. This is Snack Size DFS. I'm Dan Vespers, just here to once again introduce the episode. My good buddy Brenton Eckersley will take you through the Thursday DFS card here momentarily that I can't wait for us all to use for our underdog lineups as well. But before we get started, shout out to our friends at Bet Online, our longest running partner here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. The game starts here. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform. The world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. They've got touchdowns, threes, hat tricks. They've got odds. They've got stats. They've got live viewing. They've got in-game betting. And of course, right now, there is the one that rules them all, the Super Bowl. The game, spreads, odds, money lines, props. Oh, it took me so long to come up with that word. Props. And if Super Bowl is not your jam, you got NBA, college hoops, you got NHL, you got UFC, you got baseball right around the corner. The world is your oyster at Bet Online. Once again, the game starts here. Follow Brenton on Twitter at Terrain72. I believe that's the same handle for Brenton over on Blue Sky. Again, he's going to take you through the DFS card. Rapid fire. You guys don't have an hour to listen to a podcast to prepare for a DFS slate, but you got 15 minutes. That's why it's called Snack Size DFS. Brenton, it's all you.
Thanks, Dan. Welcome into another episode of Snack Size DFS, everybody. My name is Brenton Eckersley. I am your host for these condensed, bite-sized, snack-sized versions of your DraftKings DFS slates. Today we're looking at January 30th, the Thursday games. There are 5 games on if you haven't been here before. Welcome in. As I said, we try and keep this as short as possible. I record almost a full day ahead here to get you ready and get you contemplating and thinking and really building your brain around what you might do for the next day's game. So we have plenty of news already, plenty of questionables and probables and outs. So we try to dive in as early as possible to give you guys a nice foundation of where you might land later on for the Thursday, January the 30th game card. Here are your notes for the game card of the day. I just want to mention that there's not a lot of low price guys on this slate that I'm very interested in here, the 3K to 4K guys. So it does make slotting in your LeBron James's type of plays pretty difficult. So I did find myself moving more towards mid-price players here. So just keep that in mind as we go along. Watch the news though. Things may change. We may get some serious value at the bottom end of the barrel before the games start. 5 games on Thursday, January the 30th. Couple of fast ones for you. Cleveland taking on the Hawks in Atlanta. This one's a 239.5 game total already, so pretty quick. Houston taking on Memphis, and also Houston getting a pace bump versus Memphis, who play extremely quick this season. So 236 game total, we like that. Just in case you're trying to make a pick between a couple of different guys in the same position or something like that, then the pace bumps and the pace of the game can help you make that decision. On the same side of things, like the slow games, they help me make decisions as well. I'm less interested in slow games. Orlando at Portland, no game total yet, but we can expect that to be in the low 200s, I would imagine. Pace bumps, these are teams that are taking on faster teams. So Houston, relatively middle of the pack for pace. They're taking on a very fast team in Memphis, as mentioned, and the Lakers taking on Washington, who also play quick. Attack and stack, so looking at teams that leak fantasy points all over the board. Houston taking on Memphis, already mentioned. Pace bump, great matchup for Houston. Cleveland taking on Atlanta. The Lakers taking on Washington, give up points everywhere. And also Utah have stabilized a little bit in terms of giving up DK points, but they're still someone you can look at targeting. So the Minnesota Timberwolves are taking those guys on the Thursday game card. Let's get into it. Atlanta Hawks at Cleveland. As mentioned, very fast game. We have plenty of news already. We know that Bogdan Bogdanovic, Clint Capella, and of course Jalen Johnson out. He's out for the season now. The other two are out for this game. We know that Zachary Sachet is in, which is good news. The guys that I'm looking at here for Atlanta, Dyson Daniels at 7,500. He's had a DK scoring jump, pretty obvious one to be honest, coming now that Jalen Johnson is out for the season. His last three, 47, 38 and 45. 7,500 is a very nice price for Daniels. Zachary Rissachet, he is questionable. Sorry, no, now he's in. I do update these just before we dive into recording. So that one's now in for Rissachet. 4,100. He had 28 DK points with no Jalen Johnson in the lineup. More shots, more usage. He did that in only 20 minutes. So if the minutes can bump up, Rissachet becomes very nice price. Onyeka Okongwu, 6,900. We have no Clint Capella in this game, so any minutes that were getting taken away from Onyeka by Clint Capella are now not there for this game. Should top 30 to 35 minutes, and also going against the Cleveland Bigs, he'll be needed out there. Your Pinata play for the Hawks, it's not my favourite play of the day, but as I said, we have very few options at the moment, at the time of recording, for low price guys, so I don't mind looking at Garrison Matthews at 4,700 if you need to go that way. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, it's a back-to-back for these guys. It's the Wednesday-Thursday back-to-back. So Garland was already ruled out for the back-to-back, but I'm pretty sure that said rest, which is a fairly comfortable way of knowing that he's probably going to suit up for this Thursday game. Karis LeVert, Isaac Okoro out Wednesday also. Those guys have been missing a little bit of time, so it's possible neither of those guys play. Donovan Mitchell for the Cavs at 8,400 only put up 12 field goal attempts in his last game, which is very low for Mitchell. I expect a bounce back game here against the Atlanta Hawks, who give up fantasy points to guards. I don't mind this price for Mitchell. My favourite play of this Cavs team, though, is Evan Mobley at 7,700. Last two games versus Atlanta, 60 and 45 DK points. So he's had some price droppage going on. 7,700 versus the Hawks. That's too cheap for Evan Mobley. He'll be on my favourite plays board. Max Strus, 4,500. Look, as long as Karis LeVert and Okoro are out, this is an okay play at 4,500. He doesn't have a huge amount of upside. He becomes especially enticing if Garland stays out, but I do expect Darius to play. Ty Jerome at 4,400. Again, limited options at the lower price end of things. If Garland happens to sit again, then you can look at Ty Jerome here at 4,400. Moving on to the Los Angeles Lakers, taking on the Washington Wizards. Anthony Davis is out. We know he's out. He's going to be out for at least a week. LeBron came up as questionable just before recording here, which shifted a bit of my thinking. Vanderbilt is probable and Gabe Vincent is questionable. So LeBron James on the board, as I mentioned, questionable now. We know that Davis is out, so 10.5 is a pretty good price for LeBron James with no Anthony Davis. He put up two 60-plus DK point games with no Davis earlier in the season, but I love this one. This is my favourite play of the day. Austin Reaves, 8,500. Yes, the price is up, but he had a 54 DK point game with no AD earlier in the season, and the other one was a 36-point game, but this is versus the Wizards. I think we can almost build our lineups around Austin Reaves. Rui Hachimura at 4,900. Did I say Hachimura? Hachimura at 4,900. There will be more shots available with no AD, and especially if LeBron's out. He has lower upside. If LeBron's out, he becomes much more enticing, of course. Just want to note here on the center position for the Lakers, a lot of people are just going to dive into Jackson Hayes because he'll probably get the start. But in the two games that he's played with AD out this season, he topped 30-plus minutes in both games, and look at those scores. 81 and 21 DK points. So I'm just staying right away from Jackson Hayes here. You can take it either way. He may go off. I don't think he does. 4,500, I'm not playing that play here. Jackson Hayes is staying out of my lineups. A couple of additional notes I had to make. If LeBron sits, we're going to get more Dorian Finney-Smith, 4,200, and also Dalton Connect at 3,900 becomes a pretty nice bottom-of-the-barrel play because someone's going to have to score for this team. It can't all be Austin Reaves if LeBron is out. On the Wizards side of things, they do have a back-to-back. It's the Wednesday-Thursday back-to-back. Sarr was ruled out on Wednesday, so If he comes back in on Thursday, he's actually a decent play at 5,600. He's slightly underpriced. There's no AD on the other side of the ball for rim protection, so I like Alex Sarr at 5,600. Bilal Koulibaly is probably my favourite play regardless for the Wizards here. 5,500. He had 36 DK points on the Lakers 44 games back, and he has just been ramping up slowly as we go through the season. If Alex Sarr can't go on the back-to-back on Thursday, then you can lock in Jonas Valanciunas, I believe, at 5,700 if Sarr sits. Moving into the Minnesota-Utah game, it's a back-to-back again, Wednesday, Thursday for Minnesota. Look, there's not a lot here I'm overly interested in outside of Rudy Gobert at 5,600. Look, all we need him to do is get double-digit rebounds, which he's been doing on the regular. We have Walker Kessler possibly out for the Utah Jazz on the other side of things. So I really like the $5,600 price here for Rudy Gobert. If he can score a few points, get a few blocks and some rebounds, that's a great price for Rudy. Anthony Edwards, yeah, I'm not that interested in, to be honest. He can't be ignored versus Utah, so I have mentioned him here. I will be playing Austin Reaves first and foremost, though, at that higher price. Jaden McDaniels, he's a guy who I can just never get right. He is on a roll lately. 5,500 is still too cheap for the points he's been putting up. But the problem for McDaniels, for me personally, is as soon as I slot him into a lineup, he'll just throw out a dud. So I'm very cautious with Jaden McDaniels. Perhaps you're more into him. 5,500 is a good play, and he is playing Utah. On the Utah Jazz side of the ball, we have multiple questionables here, and they're big names. So it's Jordan Clarkson, John Collins, Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen, all questionable for this Thursday matchup. It opens up a lot of things. If Walker Kessler can go at 7,100, that's a decent value price. As I said, I'm probably focusing on mid-range players here, so it's an okay value play. Rudy Gobert is a good blocker of the basketball, but he does tend to give up fantasy points. So Kessler at 7,100 is a decent value play. Colin Sexton, if we have multiple guys on the offensive side of things sitting here, i.e. John Collins, Jordan Clarkson, Lauri Markkanen, then Colin Sexton just continues to roll along as a nice play at 7,400. Isaiah Collier, been getting the start lately. Maybe they're moving away from Keontae George. It's hard to say because George is still getting that, 29, 30, 31 minutes off the bench. So Isaiah Collier, though, 5,500, he is starting. The minutes are up. Look, it's a solid play. We have to find some value somewhere. He does have lower upside, though. Jordan Clarkson, 5,700. If he comes in, his minutes were low in the last game where he did come back from missing one. Is a dart throw only, but if we have no Collins and no Markkanen, then Jordan Clarkson is certainly not shy about shooting the basketball, so he becomes a dart throw as well. And if Walker Kessler is out, then your injury replacement is going to be Drew Eubanks at 4,800. Houston taking on the Grizzlies in Memphis. As mentioned, pretty fast game here, so we do have some options. Let's look at the Houston Rockets first. They get a nice pace bump here versus the Grizzlies. At the moment, at time of recording, we have Steven Adams questionable. We know that Tari Eason's been ruled in, and just before I recorded, Alperen Sengun popped up as questionable. That's interesting. When they pop up late, not really straight after a game where they've hurt themselves or something like that, it does become worrying. So down the bottom there, I've listed that Sengun is questionable. Who's the guy who comes in as the injury replacement? It's hard to pick as well. Jock Londale at 3,200, Jeff Green at 3,000 if they decide to go a bit smaller. I would probably go with a starter. They are playing Memphis against the huge hunk of human of Zach Edey, so it could be Jock Landale. Halfway through the game, though, they could easily switch and just decide to go small to try and take Zach Edey out of the play. My favourite guys on this Rockets team, Jalen Green, 7,400. As I mentioned, pace bump. We can target the Memphis shooting guard spot for sure, and the wings. They've been giving up fantasy points across shooting guard, small forward, and power forward on the regular in recent games. He had 54 and also 42 DK points versus Memphis earlier in the year. Amen Thompson, just about my favourite player to watch at the moment, 8,300. This kid's an absolute star. The price is rising. DraftKings are slowly catching up, but he's still too cheap. And again, we can target Memphis on the wings. It's interesting the way DraftKings pricing works versus the platform that I have to play on here in Australia called Draft Stars. DraftKings can be very slow to catch up, whereas so you get more time to eat that chalk and play the lower price guy who is just turning into a DK stud. Whereas Draft Stars here in Australia, they will almost reverse the pricing overnight. They'll take a guy who's the equivalent of a $3,000 player, and if he puts up 30 points, fantasy points, they'll just switch him to match that value overnight, taking away all of that value. No one gets to eat the chalk, and it makes decision making a lot more difficult over here. Just a little insight into the different game styles of DFS platforms that are out there. For the Memphis Grizzlies taking on the Rockets, if the Rockets are getting a pace bump, then this is a pace down game for the Grizzlies. Houston are a fairly tough defense as well as far as fantasy point scoring goes. So I'm not interested in the big guys in Jaren Jackson, in Desmond Bain. These are the guys I left off my card last time as well. It's just the lower price guys I'm interested in here, which is good because we need some value from somewhere today. GG Jackson at 3,200. He's had 22 minutes and 24 minutes in 2 games before the New York blowout, which was a huge blowout. It was interesting to see Jackson get less minutes in that game, to be honest. Probably says something about where Memphis are valuing him. If they're not going to play him more minutes in a blowout, then they're trying to protect him, basically. So 3,200 for GG Jackson is a decent punt play. Zach Edey, 4,700. He's coming off 2 35 DK point games before that New York blowout himself. So I like the price for Zach Edey here, especially if Şengün can't go on the other side of the court. Last game of the day is the Orlando Magic taking on the Portland Trail Blazers. As mentioned, no game total yet, but this will be slow. Almost definitely Orlando, one of the slowest teams in the league this season. Portland, about mid-pack. So, look, I can expect about 211, 213. Let's see how close I get with that game total when it pops up. Jalen Suggs is questionable. He's not probable. He is questionable. So, Gary Harris is the probable one there. Moving into the actual options here, the high price guy for me is Franz Wagner at 7,800. He's had a price drop. DraftKings, again, the pricing is very different in America as to what it is here in Australia. Price drop after putting up 49 and 43 DK points. So cool, roll with it. We like that. It's a fairly tasty matchup versus Portland as well. I've moved off of Cole Anthony as the potential replacement for Jalen Suggs. He's just not getting it done. Anthony Black, they're leaning more into him with minutes. 4,900 is a nice price for a guy who can put up 30 plus DK points with limited upside if Suggs sits. Goga Batadze at 5,700. Look, this guy earlier in the season was 7K or more. You'd have to pay for him. So, look, his minutes were hampered in the first game back after the concussion protocol, which I found surprising. But 5,700 is a decent play for him. We know that this guy can just get double-digit rebounds and some points and some stocks. If you think that he's going to increase that minute value almost immediately, then Goga is a decent price at 5,700. Tristan da Silva down the bottom there. As mentioned, limited low price value options in this card, so I don't mind him. He is going to be a low upside spot filler only, just to help you get someone else in, basically. He's probably not going to burn you at that price. Like, you can expect 20 DK points fairly regularly from Tristan da Silva. On the Blazers side of things, we know that Jeremy Grant has been ruled out for this game already. I like Denny Abdia here at 7,300. His last 3 games, 36, 54, and 47 DK points. Double-digit field goal attempts just on the regular now for Denny. He is also a guy I like watching play basketball. It's a slow game against Orlando, but this is just too cheap for Abdia. DeAndre Ayton, he's a guy I don't like watching play basketball. Sorry for any Blazers fans or Ayton stans out there, but 6,600 is just way too cheap for a guy with this much upside. He's not on the injury report. We expect him to start and play 30 plus minutes. It's way too cheap. He's got immense upside at that price. 39, 46 and 46 DK points in his last three. Tamani Kamara, he is your GPP kind of dart throw play. 5,500. Any given night is going to give you either 23 DK points or 46. I'm not the Kamara whisperer. Maybe you are. If you think it's tonight, then 5,500 is a decent punt play. And also with Jeremy Grant out, someone's going to have to swallow up those minutes. Shaden Sharp at 5,300 could be the guy. Pinata play with no Jeremy Grant in the lineup. I am not probably falling on Shaden Sharp too often in my lineups, but he is there if you need that price. That's it for the games. My favourite plays for the day, Austin Reaves heads the lineup versus Washington. No Anthony Davis. He's already proved what he can do with no AD in the lineup. Now LeBron is questionable. He is the headlining act for me in this card. Dyson Daniels versus Cleveland in a fast one. Back the other way, Evan Mobley's too cheap versus Atlanta. We have Rudy Gobert at that nice tasty price versus Utah. We have two guys versus the Memphis Pace-Up. Amen Thompson, love this kid. Jalen Green, love what he could do against Memphis as well. Versus Orlando, I have two options for you. It's Denny Avdia and DeAndre Ayton. Nice pricing for both of those guys. Thanks for joining us. This has been another episode of Snack Size DFS for the Old Man Squad Network. Please like and subscribe on the videos. Please like and subscribe to the socials. You can find me on Twitter at Terrain72 and also on Blue Sky at terrain72.bsky.social. I hope that is beneficial for you guys. I'll be back in a couple of days to record again. We have a couple of nice game cards coming up with lower games, which is right in the pocket for Snack Size DFS. Back to you, Dan.
So that was Snack Size DFS. Quick reminder, if you made it to this point in the show, you know the rule. You got to subscribe, especially if you want more DFS episodes here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. And I know that you do because Brenton's the man. This I also know to be true. Terrain72 is the handle for Brenton on social media. And now go take this information and go dominate your UnderdogFantasy.com card, people. Sign up today using promo code OLDMAN, or just click the link in the show description. That'll take you over there with the built-in referral information. I don't actually get something for your referral. Just so we're clear on that, it's just so that they know who sent you. We are trying to build a big Believe network-wide partnership with us and Underdog Fantasy. It's a way for me to keep everything 100% gratis forever. That's part of the goal here, is that Old Man Squad Fantasy can stay free forever and ever. One way to do that is to make sure that the sponsors are happy. So thank you to BetOnline. Thank you to UnderdogFantasy.com. Again, promo code there is OldMan, or click on the link in the show description. It's got the built-in code. Once you're there, you're just picking higher and lower on things that you feel strongly about. And if you use the DFS information that Brenton just brought to you, you have a pretty good shot to build yourself a winning ticket with, again, rapidly growing odds, 3x, 5x, whatever, as you add more things. Yeah, it sounds a little bit like a parlay. That's not really what it is, because it's a pick 'em. And again, you're basically rolling with player props, effectively. If you want to see how this works, you look at the slate, you see which ones are great. We'll build one together daily. Usually we do that on the recap show. And hopefully we can take home some wins. That's it. We're done. Thanks to Brenton. I'm Dan. This is Old Man Squad. Like, rate, subscribe on the way out. We'll see you guys soon with more here on Snack Size DFS.